Hello and welcome to another part of the color themed series that I'm doing here on this channel, where I create looks around a certain color or color scheme, and you voted on different looks, and I actually decided to do the one that was voted the least because I wanted to have it done. You've seen it in the title. Today I'm doing 3 looks all catered around peach fuzz. The first look is going to be quite soft and monochromatic. The second look will play with more contrasts, and the third look, which is this one that I'm wearing, is probably the one that is the most like artsy and the most contrasty. Just a little disclaimer, I hate peach. Peach is like one of the most disgusting colors ever to exist. So I'm happy that I managed to do 3 looks, 3 very different looks in my opinion, but enough of the rambling. Don't forget to subscribe because, you know, color themed things is a thing now here on this channel. I have no clue what the next one is, probably gray, and I think I just doubled that because I will probably say that in the outro that I just filmed 2 minutes ago, but I already forgot what I've said. Enough, let's head over to look number 1. Okay, for the very first look, I'm heading into the Blend by New Cosmetics Sickly Sweet palette because this actually has some shades in there that are literally called just peachy. Then they have the matching Temper party dress, and then this ruffles shade. I feel like I can get a good monochromatic look with this palette for the first peach fuzz look. So I'm starting out with the shade Just Peachy, and I apply this roughly in the transition area. Next up, I'm tapping into Temper, and I do apply this in the transition area. Or no, this is more crease than transition, but I do flick it up into that. It's funny how these shades that are literally called, for example, Just Peachy, or in general are in the orange peach vibe, how they on my skin translate into pink. Am I crazy? Do you see that too? But this is pink. Or maybe a salmon color, not so much peach, but definitely salmon pink. So I'm now going into the shade Party Dress, and I use this to add more oranges here on the outer part. And whatever is left, I take through the crease too. That's more peachy now. I just need something dark, so I go into Melancholy. In Germany, we would say Melancholy, so hopefully that's right. And I apply this here on the outer part, and I also bring this slightly into the crease. I just want to have some depth going on here. Not too much, but I'm missing just definition. I'm now tapping into the shade Ruffles, and I apply this all over the lid. Only one shimmer for today. Who is she? Clearly not enjoying peach fuzz, let me just say that. Okay, I'm tapping back now into Melancholy, and now I googled how to pronounce this in English. And I do apply this on the outer part of my lower lashes to the center, and I also press a little bit here into the lashes. Next up, I'm tapping back into Temper, and I use this to blend out the dark shade and blend it inwards. On a more fluffy pencil brush, I also tap into Just Peachy, and I use this underneath. For some reason, that dark shade does not blend so well, so I'm going in with a clean brush, and I just try to fluff it out a bit. I feel like a reddish dark liner can help this look, so I'm taking the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk liner, and I do line my lower waterline with that. For my inner corner highlight, I'm now going into the shade Cupcake, and yeah, as the name says, I apply it as inner corner highlight. And this is again my cat scratching because he wants to come in, but he's not allowed to. Okay, here we have now the finished look, and I also applied the shade Cupcake, the one for the inner corner, on my brow bone. For lips, I'm choosing the Peach Glow Dior Lip Oil because I feel like this is very matching and it's not too peachy. So, I mean, just look at my lips. It basically looks like I'm wearing a clear lip gloss. It has just the slightest tint going on, and that was a bit too much. If you want to recreate this first peach fuzz look, this is the color palette that I used. So you don't need to buy the Sickly Sweet specifically. This is just the type of colors that I used. To be honest, I don't think it's that bad. I had a rough road to get there, but I kind of like this because it is fresh, neutral, but it has a bit of definition thanks to that darker shade. Without that darker shade, I would not like this at all. And there is just something to this look. But now let's head over to Peach Fuzz look number 2. So for look number 2, I wanted to do something that had more contrast, and in case you didn't see it, I bought the Color Harmony book from Pantone because this is a very nice book for inspirational things. And I basically went through the book and was looking for some of these color combinations that had peach colors in them. I looked specifically for the peach fuzz color, but that's not in here. This is what I was looking for, something peach, but with the contrast of blue and purple. And what I find very interesting is that the peach color itself here appears to be quite warmish, which is normal for peach, but the contrast here is not only naturally on the cool tone side, because blues and purples are naturally cool toned, they do have kind of all a desaturated thing going on. So I tried to find something that mimics these colors, and I actually found something. So long story short, the second look I'm doing with the Too Faced Italian Spritz palette, because how wasn't I able to think about this? Because this screams peaches, yes, peaches citrusy color, but also the contrast with the different blues and the purple hues in here. So let's create a contrasty look with this one. And I'm starting off with the shade Holy Cannoli, and I apply this as transition color. I do build the shade up quite a bit, so I went in now 2 times to get this kind of intensity. And don't be shy, I do take this up to the brows actually. I'm now going into the shade Spaghetti About It, and I use this just very classic in the crease area to deepen up my crease. I don't know if I will add another dark matte. I will see how it looks once I apply the contrast blues on the lid. So I'm now tapping into Lake and Bake, and I concentrate this shade here on the most outer part. Now I tap into the shade Take Me to Church, and I apply this in the center of the lid, but I'm leaving the inner part bare, because I'm now tapping into the shade Spritz and Glitz. I apply this here on the inner part. I definitely do want to add some more definition for the crease, so I'm going into the shade Espresso Yourself. And I do run this basically along this shimmer line directly in the crease with the pointiest blending brush that I own. So for the lower lash line, I'm going back into Espresso Yourself, and I do smudge this all along the lower lash line. And then I tap into the shade When in Rome, and I do blend it out with that to just add some more of that pinkish contrast. You could easily use now the shade Spritz and Glitz also as inner corner highlight, but I add a glitter for that. And I'm going for this into the To Die For glitter palette from Slayfire Cosmetics. Now we use the shade up here that's called Ghosted. This is a translucent glitter, like a true translucent glitter. Let me just show you what that means. So I picked up some of this on my brush, and now I just slightly tap this in the inner corner part and also a bit into the crease. I should have taken a smaller brush, but now I will just go through this. I hope that the camera is able to pick this effect up that this glitter has, because this looks like I applied some gel or like a jelly or water droplets in the inner corner. This is a true jelly wet effect. Okay, so all that's left now is brow bone highlight, and for this I will be using the Spritz and Glitz shade. So I take a tiny bit, and then I apply this on the highest point of my brow, or like underneath the brow, you know what I mean. Okay, and now we have the finished look of the second peach fuzz thing that has more contrast than the first one. I actually kept this contrasty thing also on the face, so I used blushes that do have a bit of a peach undertone going on, while for the highlight I used the new Chanel, what's it called, the Lumière de Lotion highlighter from the spring collection. And I don't know if you can tell, but this has a blue shift to it. And it does appear, because of the peachy undertones in the blushes, more like purple and blue a bit. So it has a very interesting contrast going on. And if you want to recreate this peach fuzz look with more contrast, then you have here the color palette that I used for this look. Everything is in here besides the glitter. For the inner corner, you can absolutely use this shade. This was Spritz and Glitz from Too Faced. So the glitter gel that I used is totally optional. And now let's head over to look number 3. Okay, now let's do look number 3. And for the third look, I decided to go with a contrasty look again, but this time more muted in the matte area. And the big contrast is not only in the color between muted mattes and a bright peach fuzz color, also in texture. That means for the mattes, I will be pulling in the Dior Backstage Silver Essentials palette. And for the peachy lid shimmers, I will be using some shades, 1 or 2 probably, from Cleonat. So I'm thinking about this shade maybe combined with this next to it, but I will see how they in the end work with this of a contrast. And I'm also planning to do for this look some cake liner to kind of pick up the vibe of the mattes. I thought of maybe adding a gray cake liner this time. So let's see where the creativity is rolling today. Well, for you it's all the same day, but for me it's the third day I'm doing a peach fuzz look, and I'm honest with you, I'm over it. I'm starting off quite strong with this dark shade here that is called Blueberry. And I am applying this shade directly here in the outer third. And I blend this into the crease, but not all the way through. I just apply it in this area. It looks a bit like a V or a C, like your classical outer V area. Next up, I'm going into this shade here. This is called Mauve. And I do apply this in the crease area, blending it inwards and of course a bit outwards. I'm now going into this shade. This is called Pink, and I use this around the outer edges just to give it a more seamless blend. I'm now going into this shade from Cleonat. This is the shade Skeptra. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And I start with Skeptra here on the inner part of the lid first, bringing this slightly outwards. And with no additional product, I do swipe this on top of this dark out corner. Like that. I don't want to add another chrome for this because I feel like with this dark outer corner, there is a dimension to it that can be achieved with only this one shade. Okay, for lower lash line, I'm going back into this dark shade, which was called Blueberry. And I do apply this on the outer part of the lower lash line, connecting it with the upper lid here, and then slightly dragging this inwards. I'm now going into the shade Steel here in the center, and I do apply this on the inner part of the lower lash line, blending it outwards. For inner corner highlight, I'm going back into my Cleonat shade, and I'm using this shade up here. This is called Radiance, and it shifts kind of purple. And I apply this right here. Okay, it shifts more blue than purple, but it kind of helps with the contrast I'm going for. Next up, it's time for the split liner, and I will be using this center gray here. This is from Glisten Cosmetics. They do have different one of those split liner wheels, and this is, I think, the neutral one or something like that. It doesn't actually have a name on it. And I do start applying the cake liner in the center of the lid, dragging it along the lashes, and then I do a tiny flick outwards and bring it back in. Then I fill in this part here. But let's flick it a bit more outwards. And then I do kind of fill in towards the inner corner, but I'm not bringing it all the way in. I want to have a clean inner part of the lid. I hope that makes sense. So all that's left now is the brow bone highlight, and I'm using the shade Radiance from Cleonet again for that brow bone highlight. And I just realized it shifts blue and purple, which is really cool for the effect that I was going for. That's why I love Cleonet shadows so much. Doesn't matter how much you've been using them, there's kind of something new to discover. And here you have it. This is the third finished Peach Fuzz look. If you want to recreate the look, this is the color palette that I use, so you necessarily do not need the same products. You can probably dupe it all. I think this was a big ride, and I did kind of enjoy it to play around with Peach Fuzz, but at the same time, it just made me realize how much I hate the color peach in all its capacities. Doesn't matter if it's Peach Fuzz or Peach Cobbler or whatever peach. I just think it's an awful color on me. There are so many people where peach fuzz, peach shade clothing, whatever, looks beautiful, but I am just much more a cool tone girl. Therefore, this look with this very cool tone contrast in it is actually the look that I personally like the most, because this combines my preference for cool tones that also suit me the best in my opinion with the warmth of Peach Fuzz. So let me know down below, what was your favorite look? If you recreate one of those, please tag me on Instagram if you upload them. I really would love to see your recreations. And don't forget to subscribe, because there are many more color themed series going on. I think the next one will be gray, because I just need something that's more in my comfort zone now after this peach whatever disaster. Not a disaster. It was okay, but not my favorite. So thank you, and I hope I can see you in the next one.